This is a story about an experimental project undertaken to provide habitat to an endangered species of migratory bird in the St. Louis region of the Mississippi Flyway. You are about to see how an idea and great collaboration led to the successful hatching of 30 chicks in a location where successful nesting hasn't occurred since the 1960s.
Just talk a little bit about the history of the least tern project and how the Corps has been involved with the projects. Back in 2002, we started a project to try to provide some habitat, some sandbar habitat in this area here of Ellis Bay, right directly behind us. And we actually took sand from a dredge disposal area and placed sand in an area to try to build an island. And we had a great partnership with St. Louis Audubon Society and a few other folks in the region that helped us out with that, and worked using some funding from the Corps and others to do that. And it was a good project, went pretty well, but we just never really got the least terns to use it. We decided after 3 or 4 years of monitoring that and watching that project that we wanted to try something different, and that's where we came up with this least tern floating habitat island project. This project is in Ellis Bay, and Ellis Bay is a major backwater of the Mississippi River, just upstream from the Melvin Price Locking Dam, about 800 acres. And the bay, as well as 2 miles of the river channel and a pretty significant portion of floodplain directly adjacent to us here, is part of what's called the Riverlands Migratory Bird Sanctuary. Here in the sanctuary, a lot of our emphasis has been on restoring the floodplain ecosystem in this site, trying to restore some of the function, to provide habitat for wildlife, to provide some flood storage behind the levee, to provide habitat for migratory birds in particular, and even endangered species like the least tern.
We're very much concerned with the population of least terns throughout the state and throughout its historic range. And our aspect was just trying to come up with a project that would enhance the local population of the least tern. Most of the time, the nests are either destroyed by humans unknowingly on sandbars. The river ecosystem has changed quite remarkably without the flooding. There's fewer of the sandbars and the sand spits where these terns would have historically nested. Predators, raccoons, possums, skunks, mink take out large numbers of birds when they're nesting in areas on the shoreline. So putting out the barge was an opportunity to protect the nesting birds from both natural predators and any kind of possible human disturbance.
Here is an example of one of the barges that we used for this project. As you can see, we had quite a bit of excess metal on the top of this pontoon barge that we had to remove. This was done for a couple of reasons, to make it just a flat deck pontoon barge, and also we had to remove that excess weight so we could add the weight of the sand substrate, which is the sandbar habitat that the least tern requires for nesting. The barges were lashed together because we wanted them to remain as one solid unit, and so they are very, very close, and that provides the approximately 1,500 square feet of habitat for the least tern to nest on. These were anchored on the upstream and downstream end with 2 very large 1,000-pound anchors.
The call boxes themselves are very simple. We just play vocalizations of least terns, and unlike a lot of birds which migrate at night, least terns migrate during the day. And so we play these calls a couple times during the day just to reinforce the idea that there's somebody there. And we have these decoys that aren't perfect, but they look a lot like least terns. So we're just trying to trick them to show up for a little bit, and then they can see how good the area it is. We play the calls all year. So some people think, well, you just play it in spring when the birds are showing up, but sometimes birds don't show up at the right time, and sometimes they'll try to nest somewhere else, and their nests will get eaten by raccoons or what have you, and so they'll move. So we have these vocalizations playing throughout the summer, and actually took about a month after when most birds started nesting for them to find this spot. But as soon as they found it, you just go and talk to each other, and now we have a nice healthy population here.
For approximately 2 hours a day, every day during the week, I've been watching anything from population dynamics to other birds in the area, weather conditions, anything that would pertain to the least terns in this area. I began monitoring May 29th, and at first we didn't really see anything going on. We weren't really sure what to expect. And then slowly but surely, one pair trickled in, and then We had another pair, and a third pair came in June. And then by the end of July, a whole slew of least terns had come in, and we had about 20 to 25 adult least terns in the area. Other things I've seen, predation. There have been a couple cases where American crows have attempted to prey on the barges and on least tern hatchlings. They were, as far as we can tell, unsuccessful. There are so many least tern adults out there that they will just, in a giant mob, swarm about the barges and try and dive at the intruder. They have also shown this behavior with great blue heron who have flown too close to the barges and ring-billed gulls. To have so many least terns show up and then also have so many nests and so many successful hatchings, it's really exciting, and I've enjoyed watching them. It's fun seeing how their behaviors change. You know, in the beginning it was all about mating between the least terns. Watching the different kind of mating behaviors that they'll do. Will bring in a big fish in its mouth and it'll shake it around and trying to attract the other, and then they do a little ritual before mating, and that was interesting to watch. And then it turned into nesting, and then you get to see how the adults interact with the chicks and how the chicks interact with the adults, which was also a lot of fun to kind of see them grow up in a sense.
So today we're going to be going out and banding several of the young least tern that have nested on our artificial habitat we've created.
Color bands we're going to use. So they're real easy. We just slide on this. You put the leg in that little slot, slide that on, and pull it down, and that's it. I also get these bands, which are U.S. Fish and Wildlife leg bands. They all have individual numbers on them. This one's 241170801. And so if someone finds this bird somewhere else or it dies somewhere else, they can turn it into the bird banding lab in Maryland, and they'll contact us and let us know that it was found in Alabama or wherever. And then with putting the blue on the left leg and this on the right leg, if someone recites it alive in Nebraska, they can call and say, we saw your bird and it's in Platte River, Nebraska, or wherever it's at.
Each visit to the barge was limited to about 20 minutes every other week to minimize the disturbance to the birds.
Watch the edge, because last time there were a couple of young ones that were...
Hold it, Josh, right there.
Come here. You can put these here.
Yeah. Can you grab that little guy?
Did you say there was another one over here? Yes, there's two right there.
Yeah, he's probably too little. Yeah. We might have to keep him out of the sun, though.
Yeah, let's just keep him out of the sun.
We're covering the nests so the eggs don't heat up too much in the sunlight.
Recording what eggs are left.
Yep. And Vincent is recording the remaining nest and the number of eggs we have remaining. Do we have any that are banded?
Yes.
In the box already?
You want to say something about last trip, what we did?
And she did make a count of how many birds there.
So we're putting the blue band on the left leg and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife metal band on the right leg. So this is for us to, each year we'll change the band color or the band or which leg we're banding, so we know each cohort each year. Started with number 11, we can keep track that way. Oh, we started with number 12.
And this bird can actually probably fly, and he doesn't know it yet. his primaries
Primary flight feathers
are very well developed, and he'll be taking flight very shortly.
If you wanted to remove decoys, if we could.
Yeah, I guess you might as well bring some of them in if you want to. They're pretty much committed to this site now. Let's see who's on the left.
And last time we were out here, we stopped the call boxes that we had going with the least tern adult calls. We were using that to attract the birds to the site. And this time we are removing the decoys. We're adding more woody structure to the island here so that the young will be able to hide and get shade as well as hide from predators.
That's okay, that's big enough, Phil.
Okay, he'll come back.
Yeah, let's just get out of here real quick before they bail out.
Over 35 adult interior least terns were observed in the area during the 2009 nesting season. The terns created 16 nests on the barges. There were 2 to 3 eggs per nest. Approximately 30 immature terns successfully left for migration, 20 of which were banded. Rivers Project and partners plan to continue the interior least tern floating habitat project for future nesting seasons.